I am here with Mike D'Ambrosi, who I had the pleasure of training on a workshop 8 years ago when he was a team leader at Nestle Purina. He has since become the Vice President of Sales for Good West Industries and was a Vice President of Sales at Jordan Skinny Mixes and is now the Director of Sales at Schnair Sales and Service. Mike, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Likewise, Michael, appreciate the time.
We're going to jump right in. Tell us a little bit about how did you make it to where you are today?
It's an interesting question. When I see that, where I made it today, I mean, did I make it anywhere? But out of college, I got recruited by the world's largest food company, Nestle. And I spent 15 years of my career working with Nestle in various roles across the country. Had the opportunity with those roles to learn just all the aspects, many aspects about CPG companies and how they go to business. That experience, opened a lot of doors for me along the way. One desirable opportunity that came across my desk was to work with a smaller private equity-owned group. From there, I left the Nestle group and went to work under private equity in the food service space, mainly focused within the convenience channel. Turned out to be a great move. I learned a lot. When you work for a large food company, the largest in the world, there's a lot of different departments that handle a lot of business for you. As you work with smaller organizations, you wear a lot more hats. So that was a really great experience for me and in my career. Currently, over the last 3 months, I moved over to the director of sales position for a broker. So now I work within the broker group in convenience, which is the channel that's kind of become something that I've, I guess, become an expert within the convenience channel. After all these years, you just kind of become an expert in something.
What's your favorite thing about your current role?
It's interesting. It's a blend of where I've come from with the larger companies, with the smaller companies. Now, more likely a middleman. We really focus on service within Schnair Sales and Service. And what I think what that means is, we do a lot. We do a lot of different aspects. We're not the key decision maker within a lot of the communication, and even I know we speak about negotiation. We're not necessarily the end all be all, but we are the relationship. We are the guy in between where we're connecting. We're building relationships between organizations. We have vision. I think in a way where we have our experience and we can take our the things that we've learned in the past and share them with our vendor partners, and also share them with our retail and distributor partners. It's a great blend of what my background has been, and it really allows me to just kind of work something different. Every day something's different, and it's been a great run for these first 3 months, and I'm looking forward to a long career here.
It certainly sounds like you need to be client-centric or customer-centric. Do you find that to be the case in your new role?
Yeah, I find it to be my case in my new role and my past roles. I'm in sales, but I never thought I would be in sales. I didn't go to college to be in sales. I just, you kind of leave school and you get a piece of paper and you try and find a job. And I ended up in sales. And, without the customer, you don't sell anything, right? So, relationships are something you'll hear me probably talk a lot about on this call, but I'm a relationship guy that happens to tie relationships into bringing in additional revenue and profit. It's just an area that it's become a little bit of a niche for me, and it's something that, without the customer, who's going to buy your product, right? So customer centric, I think, is a very key to building block of what I do for a living.
Take the commercial environment that's happening right now with the idea around inflation, with supply chains being challenged, with COVID. I would imagine you're much more on the collaborative side now.
That's fair. Yeah, collaboration, and it's a different type of collaboration. I think everyone is under stress. We were joking internally today about, you used to be able to pass a price increase and you got to expect to get a phone call, right? And the phone call is not going to be very favorable, and the phone call is going to be with a lot of challenges to your pricing. Not that this is a great spot to be in where we are right now, but people have become so desensitized with price increases, in particular, in one area in particular, and that just kind of shows the environment, and they become, the expectations are my product's not going to arrive on time. You are being challenged in a way where we're providing goods and services, and those goods and services, the service levels, which used to be 90, 100%, are in the 50s. And I think that's an unfortunate example of the environment that we're all operating in today. But that's where we are, and being working through it's engaging because it's something that no one has faced before. I can't imagine that all these activities that we're working through have been faced by anyone in the past. We have a war, we have a supply chain issue, we have COVID. COVID alone. So with all those things and piled up into one little hornet's nest, it's been key learning, and you just got to find that common ground. I think where someone might have been happy with something a couple years ago, they could be pretty happy with a lot less right now. And it's sad to say, but it's the environment that we're in, and I think it's one of those things that we will get out of it, and we'll all be better for it. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the business world looks like when we do come fully out of this thing.
If we build on the environment that you just mentioned, which is a fundamental part of how we're operating within commercial business, how important is negotiation or your negotiation skills?
When I look at negotiation, again, I didn't really, what I would say, grow up thinking I was going to be a sales guy. I think there's a lot of stigma around being in sales, and a lot of that wasn't necessarily who I thought I was as a person. But as I continue to develop and grow, I realized that I like meeting people. I like talking to people. I like engaging with people. My wife will tell you, when I sit on an airplane, I'm probably the most annoying guy on the plane. I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to you for 3-4 hours if I have to. You better hope you get me on a short flight. But and negotiation, after just one of those things just wasn't really something that I thought I was doing. And then you come and look back on it, you're like, wow, I negotiated that, or that was something that was an end result that wasn't necessarily going to happen if it wasn't for me or wasn't for someone being on that business and paying attention and focusing towards it. So, negotiation, I think everyone handles it differently. Everyone's got their own spin on it. And I think everyone has their own, what I would say, characteristics that make them who they are as a person. And if you can, weave those into business results and relating to other people, negotiation kind of becomes natural. Now, I'm not saying you just walk in blindly to an experience, but preparing, studying up the business, understanding who your customer is, understanding what your customer needs are. I think those are all just general building blocks to being a successful person within the sales community. And it just fits with negotiation. If you know what someone's looking for, and if they got a general idea of what you're bringing to the table, you're not walking in with a shock and awe. You're just kind of building expectations and trying to meet those expectations. They're not always going to be fun, but negotiations are just one of those things that, like I said, I think they kind of just naturally form within the role that you have.
You talked about planning and preparation. I'm wondering, is that the most important aspect of your current negotiations, or do you see something else that is of critical importance?
With the way you framed it up, yeah, I'm going to say that is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing. Like I mentioned, I can sit down and talk to anybody for hours, whether it's useful conversation or just a bunch of, word vomit. But I have a, gift of gab, I guess you'd say, right? And what's the difference between that and actually getting and building results? Coming in planned and studying up and having what I would say is not a script written, but just understanding the end result that you want to get, understanding what the customer needs are again, and using that to build a strategy to go into a meeting. I mean, if you think about, or if I look back and look at a lot of the, quote unquote negotiations I've been in my career, a lot of them don't last more than 15, 20 minutes, and a lot of times you're even out of the room within 30 minutes. So after you get done with the small talk, and you give your pitch, it's negotiation, but it doesn't have to spend weeks and months of digging into the background of the information. It can be just stuff that's just a natural flow, stuff that you've earned and gained the experience on throughout your career. So that part's already in you. And then what's the specific, task at hand? Do you want to grow X amount of widgets into how many different stores? Well, what do you know about those stores? What's the benefit of your widget? And then, what's in it for the retailer? If you're an equal, a parity of somebody else that's already on the shelf, why would they make the move? Why would they choose you over the next guy? And I think with negotiation, the way I want to leave a room is I want to be able to break that tie. If there's an equal product on the shelf, it would be great to be able to break that tie because they like Mike D'Ambrosi. You know what? He came in here, he was honest, he treated me the way I wanted to be treated. And at the end of the day, both the products are pretty similar, but I like Mike. I'm going to go with him. And I think I've gained a lot from that in my career. It's weird to kind of say that on a microphone to somebody, but if I look back on it, I think a lot of my wins have been because, well, I like him over the other guy.
Well, you lead with a good name. I mean, just the fact that you have that strong name, Mike, goes a long way anyway, and you are a jovial, very collaborative person. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about technology. With the advent of technology and people being able to communicate 24/7 on their cell phones, how does a person like you keep your home life and your work life balance separate? How do you manage your calendar?
It's good and bad. I think it's having technology at your fingertips 24/7. It gives you an opportunity to work in a different way, to work in a way that the generations before us haven't had the opportunity to work. I think you look back at probably our parents and even folks maybe a decade older than us that you had to be in a chair from 8 to 5, and that was your job. But you also, when you got in your car, you just had a briefcase with you with papers in it, right? I mean, think about that. We don't do that anymore. We carry everything in our pocket. So it becomes important to really have to turn it off. I think there's a level of respect that you need to coach a lot of times, maybe the customer community on how available you're going to be. There are certain times where you need to pick up the phone on a Saturday, or you need to react to certain things at off hours of the day. But it's not every day. It's not every week. We've joked about this, Mike, before, but where I was with Nestle, we were selling pet food, and it's just pet food. At the end of the day, it's just widgets. I did not go into open heart surgery as a career. I don't have the red button here to set off the next nuclear war, right? So I mean, what's the big deal? I think you got to ask yourself. The technology is available, but what's the big deal about not answering that question? Because to me, I work a lot better when I'm refreshed. I work better when I'm focused. If it's Saturday or noon on a Saturday, probably not the best time to get a hold of me. And but I want to be there for you. Monday through Friday. I think those are still standard hours, but we can definitely have the opportunity to communicate because technology is there. And if you need to reach somebody, they're going to be available. And if they're not, maybe that's not the right person to work with. But I think it's always just comes back to what's best for you and how do you best work. And you do have that balance. And I think, I know I'm kind of long-winded on this one, but you have the opportunity too with picking and choosing when you want to work during the work week too. I think that's another benefit of technology where a lot of times I'm a new dad and, having the opportunity now to spend time with my daughter and if it's, you take an hour, in the morning, just a little extra time in the morning, well, maybe I got to give that hour back, whether it's at night or whether it's, over the weekend. None of us, I don't think anyone really believes we work a 40-hour week, and it's one of those things where I'm not punching a time card. I'm not sitting at a desk from 8 to 5, like I mentioned before, but we have a lot of flexibility. I think a lot of people have a lot of flexibility now, and especially post-COVID. I think we've all learned how to work remotely and how to be more efficient with our time. And to me, having technology at your fingertips it's a great benefit.
Thanks, Mike. That's really informative. I just wrote some notes down as you were going along as we come to the end, and then I got a bonus question for you. You talked about planning and preparing as being very significant in your role and in the roles that you've had in the past. Then you talked about sometimes you need to lean in and just be a decent person. We talked about the strength of the name Mike, but jokes aside, how you treat people. And maybe most importantly, you mentioned you ought to stay grounded listen, at the end of the day, it's just widgets. It's just widgets. And ultimately, you're trying to find a way where you can balance that work life and that home life. And congratulations on the birth of your daughter. One last question. You ready for it?
Sure thing.
How is your negotiation at home with your wife as a new mom?
I know she's, if there's one person that's going to listen to this podcast, it's going to be my wife. So I got to be careful on how I answer this question. But, you give and take. I got some great advice when I got married, and it was, you don't make any more decisions. I'm an Italian guy from the Northeast, and I still kind of let my mouth get in front of me. But I'll tell you, negotiations happen every day. I think I mentioned that earlier. And whether you look at them as a negotiation or not, it's a compromise. We're dealing with it all day long in life. And my wife and I, we get along great. We definitely have certain areas where we don't agree with everything. And but hey, at the end of the day, it's one of those ones where you got to take the good with the bad, and there's no bad. I take the bad part back. There's no bad at all. But you take life as it comes to you a little bit here, and realize what is a big deal. Again, going back to being grounded. How much energy do I want to waste, or do I want to spend on certain areas? What harm is it going to cause? And if this is important to somebody, or and again, personally and business wise, what's the big deal? Let's stay grounded, stay focused. The end goal, to me, is to have a happy, fun family, and to have my daughter be raised in a happy household, where we can provide for her and give her whatever she needs to be successful. And if, by all means, I don't know what all that is. So if I got 50% of the household coaching me on that, I think that's even better. So you got, look at it as a benefit, find that silver lining, and it's not too hard to do here.
Mike, that's awesome advice, man. And thank you for answering what was a bonus and a challenging question with respect to your relationships. Listen, man, you've had a heck of a career, certainly in the last 8 years that I've known you. It's been great to catch up again. And I'm sure the listeners will understand that if they happen to jump on a plane next to you, they should put their earphones in.
Put them in immediately. Take out a book that I don't necessarily, you might not think a guy like me would want to read. I just do something, or I don't know, start playing with the trade table, or kick your seat back. That's one way to get me to not talk to you. So a lot of triggers there too.
All right, Mike. Thanks a lot, man. Have a great weekend, and appreciate you taking out the time.
Thanks for the opportunity, Mike. Appreciate it.